Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Telling It Like It Is. My name is Jade Alberts, the founder of Peer Guidance, and now we have also launched Blockchain Insurance. It's scrolling across the bottom. Check it out. It's traditional insurance for non-traditional industries. What isn't scrolling along the bottom is Founders Coffee. Every Tuesday, 7:30 a.m. It's a great place to come meet like-minded people. Every Tuesday, 7:30 a.m. Red's Diner in Kensington. Come on out if you are a founder, startup, or entrepreneur. And I always say this: Wednesday's my favorite day of the week, other than the fact that it's snowing and we want to get out there and get some softball and playing some ball. But it is what it is. You know what snow does? Snow creates water, and water is going to be a big topic of discussion today with the founder of C.E.C Innovations, Paul Westlund. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jade. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm excited. Ever since Chris and Wilson introduced me to you, I've been a big fan of what you guys do, and I've got to learn a lot about you and your business. And yeah, it is. I'm excited about this conversation.
I'm too. Telling it like it is, the podcast name alone, friends or family. I was telling them about, my first podcast, and it's like, what a podcast to go on, because that's literally what I do every single day. It's like, telling what it is. So
Well, yeah,
I'm super excited.
as am I. As am I. And 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 obviously, water is is our most important resource. It's something we have abundant of, but I'm sure it's like everything else. If we're foolish, we will be wasting it. We probably have. You could probably have the stats of how much we've actually wasted. But before we get into the analytics and talking about what you do, I want to hear founding stories. I love backgrounds. I love how did you found this this company? So share your journey into C.E.C Innovations.
Yeah, happy to do so. It's I'll try to summarize it, because it's a long it's a long story, and I'm often kind of long-winded. But so I'm a chemist by trade, and I take a look at chemicals, and I specialized in a field in grad school that is contaminants emerging concern. And so often these compounds that we identified as emerging in contaminants, they're often not looked for. They're not routine. They're not traditionally monitored, yet they have enormous impacts, both in terms of their ability to be persistent within the environment, appear when they're not really supposed to be appearing, and they have a story behind them. And so there's some very sophisticated technologies out there to track contaminants of emerging concern, and one of which was samplers and chemical analysis. So fast forward a number of years after grad school, COVID hit, and as a scientist, I figured out that I found out that there was a way that we could find viral loads of the COVID-19 virus in wastewater. And I thought, this is like the coolest thing ever. And what I didn't realize at the time, and quickly realized later on, was you could actually see the viral loading of COVID before symptom onset. So in essence, you could almost project that there was outbreaks are going to appear in the communities. I quickly learned that people needed to have a sample, and that's where we started off with. It's actually quite relevant, because coming up on April 17th will be 5 years that I founded the company. So humble beginnings. Started out of my grandfather's garage, building samplers that looked absolutely terrible, Jade. Barely worked, but it was something that I was very proud of, to contribute. So we started off there. We developed and patented and commercialized a sampler for researchers to use for public health. And over the last number of years, it's been incredibly rewarding to work with organizations to help communities understand what wastewater is telling us and what we can do with that data. We've evolved as a company as part of that, and it's been great to see. So yeah, there's tons of stories to tell you most of it are based off failures and learnings. Um, but I like to think that we've made an incredible positive impact both here in Canada and internationally.
Oh, and I'm sure you have. So as a chemist starting off, you're sitting there, you're going through obviously university and education. Do you think that was it like, oh my, like I'm going to be in water, or was it like how did you come across? I mean, obviously we heard a little bit about that, but I mean that's not
Yeah.
something that you probably thought you would dive into.
No, no, not at all. So, my family are farmers, cattle ranchers, and then buys a ranch. So, the value of water for crops and agriculture, and it's huge. You have to have water. And so there has been some personal links to water, and certainly from family. But the instant that really changed everything for me was I was working for an engineering consulting company in Ecuador, and as part of my job, I was supposed to collect water samples and take a look at what's in there. And it was at a point in a river basin that had an outfall of Quito, and Quito at the time didn't have any wastewater treatment plants, so it was raw sewage flowing into the river, and we did not see anything living in that river at all. There was like no fish, nothing. And it was an enormous impacts from the wastewater treatment plants. And so I thought to myself, I could actually really understand what is in that water causing these problems that we're actually observing and link it back. Perhaps there's ways of treating that water that could be more effective. And so that's where it all started. It was South America. And I saw the direct impacts of raw sewage in the ecosystem, and I wanted to learn more. So I had a master's in water resource management, and then quickly moved on to a PhD in chemical engineering.
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I love founding stories, right? Like to me, it's the best ideas come from, something that's unexpected or within an industry, and then you find a different solution or you find a problem and it's like, oh my God, this is actually bigger than the problem, or it could be bigger than the problem that I really thought that I was setting out to solve.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like we were just talking earlier about problems that occur every day. Every day is different, and every day there's going to be new problems. And I'm basically, my title is like a problem solver. That's literally what I do every day. And yeah, like we started off providing a solution as simple as collecting a sample, and it wasn't simple. It was everything around that sampler has been intricately designed for the application with the user in mind. Like everything was designed. And then we moved on to chemical analysis. That was a challenge that we had to face, and it's part of the innovation that we do here literally every day. And it's part of our name, it's part of our identity. It's the reason why it's part of our name. So it's from microbiology analysis, rapid point of care technologies, AI, we do all of that here.
No, and now I want to dive into that, right? Like now when you say like I don't want to like you started off your company, and I love your journey, and I think this is for all the people that are listening out there. It is a very important story, you started off your company. You found something that you wanted to dive into a solution. You'll talk a little bit here about the government shutdown and what you're doing, but let's talk about where your company started, and let's get up until you kind of pivoted into the AI, and then we'll have more questions from there.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we recognize that collecting a sample was key. No matter what you were looking for, you needed a sample to begin with. So that was great. The problem that emerged was, well, you don't need that many samplers for programs, and really, from a business side, you only need to purchase a sampler maybe once, not twice, not like a recurring, PO for consumables. And so we were looking at our partners as part of our projects and saying, you had a recurring revenue all the time. Part of these projects I had once. We need to change because, we're losing out. And perhaps there's other ways of traditionally, looking at water that we could take on ourselves as part of our analysis and, bring that on internally. So we went from solving a problem of samples to then solving a problem of looking at water in terms of microbiology analysis and chemical analysis. And that problem had a lot to do with actually the actionability of data, not just the commercial and business sense. No matter how sophisticated your tools are, no matter how powerful your analysis is or results, if they are too far away from when you collected the sample, it's almost meaningless. If I was to say that I picked up medetomidine, a known poisoning agent that is related to opioid overdoses, and I reported that 6 months from now, it doesn't. The impact and actionability is lost. And that's a huge problem. And we've solved that, Jay. So we're able to actually provide results within minutes. And that's incredible. And we're able to provide evidence-based decision-making in near real time. And that was a huge problem that we solved. And we've shifted. A sample, you still need a sample. But now we've got a sample and now a chemical analysis. The other thing that happened is during these projects, we were exposed to a lot of other challenges that communities face, and that is looking at drinking water, looking at bacteria, knowing that the water is safe. Is there, a bacteria culture? Is there of interest? Is there a contamination event that happened? Perhaps there's a boil water advisory. Calgary, unfortunately, has seen quite a lot of those recently.
Yeah.
I'm able to see almost in near real time, in seconds, whether that water has bacteria or not. That is one of the fastest in the world, and we are actively right now in Africa, India, South America. So that was a challenge that we had to overcome, and that we added on to a new technology onto our portfolio. When we were collecting water samples, of course, then we ran into a whole other issue. And this is like the problems that we face, Jade. It's just wild. You can't make this stuff up, but the way that we look at water to tell the story of water, it provides a lot of data. I remember getting a report that was 14,000 pages long. There's not enough time during the day to go through that and make sense of it all to summarize for a client. I had 10 samples of that size, and the entire team here was physically going through each page. I was like, there's got to be a different way. And we were forced to innovate. We were forced to change. We were forced to challenge the norm and traditional way of reviewing data. And we created the Equity Wastewater Intelligence Platform. Within minutes, we're able to sift through 75,000 compounds, again, 60 million data points to provide insights to a client. We tracked 613 substances of potential abuse. Wow. We tracked 2,600 pharmaceuticals that all have a story to tell. We are basically creating chemical fingerprints for industries because we are finding these contaminants in wastewater that have huge upsets. And we're working with municipalities to understand what is causing the problem, what is the root cause of the problem, what can we do about it? And we can do that in near real time. It's one of the most sophisticated databases I've ever seen. So, we've evolved in a dramatic fashion because we had to.
Well, and it's as you said, and it's also just not a solution. I mean, just for Canada or United States, it's a worldwide, and nobody in their right mind. I mean, weeks ago we had people living close down to in the Boness area saying you have to boil your water. At no point would I ever think that a city of the size of Calgary, as sophisticated as I think we are, would ever get that.
Yeah. Who would have thought, right? And right. As much as we are working on an international aid perspective, right, in India and Zambia and Cameroon, we also acknowledge that there's areas still in Canada that are under boil water advisories. It's wild. So the need, let's just say, is there. and we have the right technologies for that. And as a small company, organically grown over the past number of years, it's really nice to see that we are developing technologies that have positive impact both here and abroad.
No, and you said you're a small company, and you started off with sending samplers and getting out there and growing and finding out that you said they only needed to buy one or two, and it's kind of maybe small doses and little things. And then all of a sudden you kind of have that, okay, we got to change our philosophy. We got to pivot. We need something that's a little more efficient. And obviously technology changed with AI and data. So as a founder, how hard is it to and share the story about saying, okay, enough of this, we got to think bigger, we got to go this route, and the stresses that puts on a small team?
Yeah, I mean, as a founder, you take it all on. It's just inherent that you do, and it's hard to do that because it's hard to expect that out of your employees, right? And because it's a huge task, you're
Yeah.
basically changing the vision. You're adapting the vision, right? You've always maintained the core principles of your company that you built, but you're adapting, and you have to do it with speed. I think one thing that I've always learned and continue to learn is you have to be brave enough to be bad at something new. You have to be comfortable with failure. You have to learn from your mistakes and learn fast and adapt. And not many people can do that within an organization. So it is a lot of work, and it is like it takes everything out of you. Like, it's wild, and it's also hard, right? Because in a small company, you wear a lot of hats. So, while you're changing the vision of a company, you're trying to get revenue through the door. You're either trying to raise capital, you're trying to submit non-dilutive funding applications. You're doing everything. You're doing sales, you're the janitor one day, you're shipping and receiving, you're doing everything. And you still have to peek your head above the trenches and look up beyond, what is the company going to be like in 6 months? In a year, and taking in consideration things that you cannot control, like markets. Like you mentioned, the government shutdown. I mean, we had some significant delays this past year. It's been one of our toughest years. Tariffs, shifting focus in defense strategies, shipping product abroad, even. I mean, as simple as that. So yeah, it's been challenging. And a lot of the founders will take that on themselves, and it's a lot to take on.
Oh, and stressful. And I know that you were able to raise a little capital from friends of mine, Wilson and Acton at Tallgrass, and I'm sure they've been there to help and guide you, and that's who introduced us, which is awesome. And here we are today talking about all the great things that you're doing. So in that pivot, and at that moment when you say, okay, we got to go bigger, what's going through your mind? What's going through your, what are you telling your team, and why the new vision?
Well, I will say, I'm very open. I'm very transparent. I am acutely aware that my decisions have significant impacts on the people here, employees, advisors, colleagues, friends, families that invested, shareholders.
Yeah.
I'm accountable for them. I work for them, and I have to have very good reasons for why I think we need to shift and pivot. Clearly laying out those visions and making sure that there is a clear line of sight of, it's not completely a 180. It may be a 45. We're not completely changing everything. We're adapting. We're just changing a little bit. It's not a complete different wheel. It's adding another spoke to it. And that has really helped because they can bridge between what they're doing now and what they're going to be doing. Their roles and responsibilities may change, but they can adapt. I think it also is like maintaining the fact that we have each other's back. I will always be there, no matter what hour of the day. We'll we'll get through it, thick or thin. There's going to be bumps along the road, and we're going to fail, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
it's just another problem to solve. And we have a very close, tight-knit group of people, and I can assure you that if I have any problem at all, I will be able to phone anybody, any investor, any shareholder, any advisor of mine, and they'll be able to help. And that's just been amazing, because without that, when you pivot, when you change, it could be an enormous impact to the business, and a lot of things can fall apart. So, open communication, I think, would be the biggest thing to wrap it all up.
Yeah, I mean, and to be quite honest, you're lucky that you are in this province, because it's probably the greatest asset of Alberta is the people that you meet. The people will make introductions. The people will say, "Hey, I might not be able to help you, but I know somebody who can," and have a coffee with you and things along those lines. So it's always great, and that's what I love about it. I mean, I call it the Prairie Way, and it's just it's simply people are there to help anybody in a time, no matter what it is.
100%. I'm a scientist and engineer. I'm like a very technical guy, right? And my communication of what we do and all the successes that we've had, but also failures too, and challenges. I don't often communicate that in a particular way, and I think when advisors and investors take a look at our technology platform, they see the potential, and they see the connections, and they see their own networks, and it's been great. I mean, Tallgrass Ventures, wow. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, they saw the rapid bacteria test, and they were able to make a connection into the agricultural industry. We are about to kickstart a project now with a prominent partner within this industry for application. And while we originally adapted originally created the technology for water, it could be adapted into an entirely different new industry with the right person, and that connection is huge.
Oh,
It allows you to get there faster, and it's been amazing. So yeah, really lucky to have them. It is a very tight-knit group here in Alberta, just in general, and is a very small world in the water industry.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
A niche of a niche almost, right?
Yeah. Like I got a call the other day from like a small county that I've never heard of in like Tennessee. And apparently they said, "Yeah, I heard that you're the guy to talk to." And I'm like, "I have no idea who you are, where you're calling in from, but I'm here to help." I had a First Nations community also call me up because they had an environmental challenge that they were hoping to solve. And I was there to pick up the call and say, what can I do? So it's very small. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And obviously the word of mouth is the best lead you can ever get. So you're doing things that are great out there when you're getting calls from randoms in the county in Tennessee. So that's not very close to Calgary.
It's not. No. I think the other thing that was really cool is, as I mentioned, we've created, in essence, platforms to solve some pretty big challenges, and our solutions are looked at through different perspectives. We look at water to solve problems, the immediate problems, and sometimes there's odd cases where there's advisors that we have, in particular, Dr. Eileen Pepler, who's looked at our data and said, we could use our data for community health needs assessments. And it was really cool to see how we've created something, again, for new applications, and it's continuing to evolve in something that I never really expected. And so that's been really neat to see, because, again, it's another application, another use of water into a new market.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, speaking of new markets, what's next for you and the company? Let's say maybe a little short term and maybe a little 5-year plus long term view.
Yeah. Well, 5 years ago when I started the company, I didn't think that I would be here on a podcast telling about all the things that we've experienced. I have no idea what the next 5 years are going to be like, to be honest. But what I do know is this: our technologies are here to stay. We've created solutions that are profound, that are lasting, and that they will be used. I can guarantee you. Water is going to be even more important as the years go on, whether it's for reuse, source protection, treatment, all these different types of aspects about water, and our technologies are perfectly fit for this. What's short term? We recognize the value of data, and we have done an amazing job of providing actionability and maximizing the value of water data. Our main mission right now is to continue maximizing that, providing value. We have a network across Canada and across the United States. We have an office that we are going to be opening up here in short order in Denver. We also have plans to expand in Europe. We already have an active project in Europe with our partners. And we're looking to expand globally beyond the borders of Calgary and Alberta and take it abroad. So it's been fantastic. That is literally happening right now. In terms of data, maximizing the value of that, can we commercialize it? What are the steps of commercializing it? What are all the ways that we can use the data for good?
Well, you started off that answer saying, I don't know, but that sounds like a pretty good plan.
Like planning nowadays, it's always been a struggle because it's like so many things change, right?
No doubt. That's so true.
So that's what I think we're going to do, and we will do it. But it could be faster, it could be longer. But yeah, I mean, we do have a plan. So.
Oh, I knew you would have a plan. I mean, there's no doubt you have a plan. I mean, things always change as we've discussed here over the last 30 minutes.
Very fluid.
Yeah, there's always something that will pop up, change, make you go in a different direction, expand to a country that you never thought you would ever be in. Whatever's thrown at you.
Yeah. Who would have thought? Yeah. It's exciting. I mean, every day is different. I mean, I gotta tell you, like I come into the office early in the morning. I try to plan out the day, and by like 12 o'clock at noon, it's completely changed. And but that's exciting, right? We're seeing completely something new all the time and uncovering some new potential, and it's invigorating. Like it's exciting. It's exciting to be part of that and be the driver force for that. So, yeah.
Well, I mean. And the driving force, besides something that, as I mentioned at the beginning, and then obviously, as you know, and it's probably the greatest resource we take for granted. And no one thinks about it when I'm just going to go to my tap and pour myself a water and put my ice in there. I don't think I've ever thought about water in my life, right? Like, where am I going to get it? What am I going to do? Those types of things. Yet, behind the scenes, there's incredible companies like yourself that are making sure that it is safe. And so I don't have to think about it.
Yeah. And there's a lot to it, right? There's a whole like monitoring aspect to it. There's providing, actionable, results based off what you're finding. Like, how do you communicate these results? All the way to infrastructure, like what is required. These are huge investments. As we're seeing here in Calgary for the drinking water treatment plant, right? We are increasingly reliant on these infrastructures that are, increasing in age. We have higher population, higher demand. All these factors come into play, and we need to protect it at all costs. And wastewater itself, it's always been out of sight, out of mind. And I got to tell you, it is a tremendous value that I think people are going to be starting to pay a lot more attention to in the near future. In terms of its availability to replace fresh water, treat to release and treat to reuse, to also what is found in wastewater.
I'm guessing that will probably be our next Telling It Like It Is conversation.
I have a funny feeling, Jay, there's going to be a loss of those in the near future. I hope so.
I hope so too. And on that, This I always like ending my discussions here with one question, and you've run the gauntlet here, so to say. Start pivoting in your business, pivoting in your life, finding a new business, pivoting from that, going through COVID, starting the company, changing it a little bit. So there's a lot in that quick little 10-second blurb. But
Yeah.
if you had one piece of advice for a founder startup, what would that be?
Oh, uh, I mean, I can only speak to what I've experienced. Um, Perseverance, just pure grit, like just keep on going. Like you never know what opportunity is lying around the corner. You never know, and I think that you have to be able to push through in good times and also bad times. And it's tough, really, really tough. But you know, people just get through it, and yeah, grit, perseverance, like it is no small feat. And execution, I gotta tell you, you have to execute ideas. So yeah, that's what we've been able to use to our benefit and grow.
No, and that's a great answer, right? And especially when you said you never know what's around the corner. I mean, it's just
You
like
never know.
you don't. You're doing this one day, and out of the 400 plus episodes that I've had, we've always had that. Okay, well, why did you go this way? Why did you go that way? Why did you change this? Why did you do that? Well, it's always because once I got out there, the data told me something different, and I had to go that way. And if you don't, you die, and that's the end of your company. So the perseverance, looking around, you never know what's around the corner. It's priceless. So thank you for sharing that tidbit of knowledge with us.
Thank you, Jade. Yeah, this has been great.
I know, and it's been as I said at the beginning, it's my favorite day of the week, and it's always my saddest when our conversations come to the end, because I get to meet incredible people like yourself, Paul, and incredible stories. And for anybody that does want any more information, please just go to his website. It's in the comment section. It was up on the screen there earlier on, and yeah, and I truly believe that we will be having another conversation, because I think that water is probably, again, we talk about it a little bit more here because we have pipeline breaks all the time. But other than that, it's out of sight, out of mind. And I truly think that, it is going to be one of the most important things over the next 10 to 50 years, that it's going to be a make or break, especially all the fresh water that we have here in Canada.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Jade, thank you for taking the time today and inviting me. I mean, obviously it's through the connections of our mutual colleagues and partners that we work with. And I mean, what a first podcast, I can tell you that much.
This is a thing that I always don't understand. I get so many, this is my first time, and I'm like, how have you never been on? Like, and I'm like, this person, that person. I was like, I've never been on. Ian McDonald, at one time, he goes, actually, you're my first, you're the most popular person in our ecosystem, and you've never been on a podcast before. I'm like, but again, this is why I do it. We get to share incredible stories from incredible people doing incredible things in our ecosystem, and that's exactly why it was started 8.5 years ago. And I'm glad I'm still doing it. I'm glad I get to showcase companies like yourself, even though it's only for 30 or so minutes. But yeah, it's been great having this conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Jade. Really appreciate it.
Yes, and I will have Reserve X on next week, Dan Goodsell, and we'll have a conversation about the travel industry, from water to travel. So something totally different. But I hope everybody has a great Wednesday. Get out there, shovel, drive safe. It is looking out the window a little miserable right now, and our girls are at school, so I guess I'm going to be the one that's shoveling. I'm shoveling anyway. Who am I kidding? Excellent. So anybody want any more information, please reach out to Paul. Paul, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it, and we will chat soon.